Rain poured down in heavy sheets as Emily Carter sat inside her old rusted sedan, her trembling hands gripping the steering wheel. Through the cracked windshield she stared at the house she had once called home, the one she had built every dream around. Now, its windows were lit up, the curtains she had lovingly sewn years ago drawn tight by strangers who laughed, drank, and played loud music inside. Her heart pounded in disbelief as she realized the horrifying truth. Squatters had taken over her home, and she, a single mother who had already lost almost everything, was now standing in the cold with nowhere left to go. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of standing up for what's right, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Xposed Tales. These stories remind us that even in our darkest hours, humanity can shine brightest. Emily had been through storms before. When her husband died in a car accident 5 years earlier, she was left with a 6-year-old son, a mortgage she could barely afford, and the crushing weight of grief. But she didn't give up. She worked double shifts at a diner, cleaned houses on weekends, and slowly managed to pay off the last bit of her loan. Every corner of that little 2-bedroom house held her sweat and sacrifice. From the garden she planted with her son, to the nursery she refused to repaint even after he grew out of it. That home wasn't just walls and wood, it was her hope made real. 2 months earlier, Emily had taken her son Ethan to stay with her sister in another town for a few weeks while she recovered from pneumonia. She thought a short break would help her regain strength before returning to work. But when she came back, her key didn't fit. Her flower beds were trampled. Strangers were living inside. 3 men and a woman who had broken in changed the locks and claimed they had rented the place through an online ad. The police told her it was a civil issue. "You'll have to go through court," they said coldly, leaving her standing on the sidewalk, soaking wet and helpless. For nights, she slept in her car across the street, watching as the intruders threw parties, brought in new furniture, and treated her beloved home like a playground. She begged them to leave, cried, even tried calling the police again, but nothing changed. Her calls went unanswered, her pleas were ignored, and the squatters only grew bolder, mocking her from the porch whenever she came near. By the 4th night, Emily was exhausted. She hadn't eaten properly in days, and her son kept asking, "Mummy, when are we going home?" She couldn't find the words to tell him she didn't know if they ever would. She sat there in the dark, her heart breaking, when a rumbling sound echoed from a distance, deep, low, and powerful. At first, she thought it was thunder, but then the sound grew louder, steadier, the unmistakable roar of motorcycle engines. From the corner of the street, a long line of headlights appeared, one after another, dozens, then hundreds, forming a river of chrome and thunder rolling toward her neighborhood. Emily's breath caught. She recognized the patch on one of the jackets as the bikers parked in front of the diner where she used to work. She had served them coffee for years, kind men with rough hands and quiet hearts. One of them, a grizzled old man named Hawk, had always sat at the same booth by the window. He'd once told her, "We take care of our own. You ever need anything, little lady, you call." She never thought she would. But a desperate message she sent that night, a trembling, hopeless text that simply read, "They stole my home and no one will help me," had reached Hawk's phone. The next morning, the roar returned, this time louder than ever. The entire street trembled as over 300 bikers rolled in, their black leather vests glinting under the sun, engines echoing like thunderclaps of justice. Neighbors peeked through their windows. Children watched in awe, and even the squatters inside paused their music when they heard the commotion outside. Emily stood there, her clothes still dirty, her face streaked with tears and exhaustion, as Hawk and his crew dismounted. He was a mountain of a man, silver beard, sharp eyes, and a calm authority that made even the boldest hearts tremble. He walked up to Emily, gently placed his hand on her shoulder, and said in a low voice, "We heard someone messed with family." Before Emily could speak, Hawk turned toward the house. Behind him, the massive group of bikers formed a silent wall. rows of men and women in black vests, arms crossed, faces hard as steel. Hawk gave a single nod, and the line moved. The squatters peeked through the curtains nervously, realizing what they were up against. When they finally stepped outside, trying to bluff their way through, Hawk's second in command, a tall man named Reaper, simply said, "You've got 10 minutes, that's all." No one argued. The intruders hurriedly grabbed what they could, stumbling over themselves as the bikers stood by silently, watching every move. A few of the neighbors came out and began to clap. For the first time in weeks, Emily's house was silent again. When the last of the squatters drove away, Hawk turned back to Emily. "You're home now," he said simply. And for the first time, she broke down, sobbing into his shoulder as the bikers stood around her, their rough faces softening. One of them went inside and began cleaning up the mess. Another fixed the broken door. A few started mowing the lawn, trimming the garden, repainting the porch railing. Within hours, her home looked alive again. Brighter, safer, warmer. News spread fast. The sight of hundreds of bikers working together to restore a single mom's home drew attention from across town. Reporters came by, but Hawk refused interviews. "We don't do this for cameras," he said. "We do this because it's right." As the sun set that evening, Emily stood on her porch once more. The same porch she had once been mocked from now felt sacred, guarded. Ethan ran through the garden, laughing for the first time in weeks, while Hawk and his men shared coffee and pie on the front lawn. The air smelled of fresh paint and wildflowers. Emily watched them, men the world often feared, showing more compassion than anyone else had. That night, she sat on the steps, tears in her eyes, as she looked at the old biker who had led them. "Why did you help me?" she asked softly. Hawk smiled faintly and said, "Because once someone helped me too. You remind me of her, strong, kind, never giving up. That's worth fighting for." In the days that followed, the bikers kept coming by to check on her. They helped repair her fence, fix her car, even brought groceries when money ran tight. But more than that, they gave her something she thought she'd lost forever, a sense of family. Weeks later, Emily hosted a small dinner to thank them all. The long table in her backyard was filled with laughter, music, and warmth. The same men who once roared into her street like thunder now sat gently holding plates of home-cooked food, smiling as Ethan proudly showed them his drawings of motorcycles. When everyone had left, Emily stood under the stars, looking at the house she had nearly lost. It wasn't just a home anymore. It was a reminder that kindness can come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes angels don't wear wings, they wear leather jackets and ride Harleys. And as she watched the taillights of the last bike disappear into the distance, she whispered a prayer, not just of gratitude but of hope, because she knew that somewhere out there, someone else might be sitting in a car, feeling hopeless, waiting for a miracle. And maybe, just maybe, those same engines would roar again for them. If this story touched your heart, if you believe the world needs more people like Emily and those bikers, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Xposed. Tales. Every story shared helps spread hope and humanity a little further. Before you go, tell us in the comments, would you open your doors to someone in need if you had the chance?